All right. Hi, everybody. I just wanted to go over some of the questions that we had, leaving off class. So if we watch this video, hopefully this should answer some of them. So if we're looking at the screen, question one, there was some of question one in the answer sheet that we were looking at was incorrect. So I wanted to go over that too. So we have all of these points. It says that the temperature depends on the location on the northern latitude. So the temperature depends on the latitude. So temperature is dependent, goes on the y, and latitude is independent, goes on the x, and you can write it out like this. When you write it on Google Sheets, you do want to have the x and then the y, because that's how it's going to graph. So you plug in all these points, the same points that were just in that table, and now you get these points that come up. When you get those points, and remember, if you do this, if you highlight everything, well, really included here, and then you go to insert, and you go to chart, and then the scatter plot will come up. So you get all these points. First thing is you have to draw the line of best fit. What I'd recommend is you printing out that graph as you make it like that with the points and drawing your own line of best fit. So when you draw the line, you should kind of cluster around all the points. You should know that this is a negative correlation because it's going down. So as the latitude goes up, the temperature goes down. So it's a negative correlation. Some should be slightly above, some should be slightly below, and you want to make it kind of going through the middle as well as you can. You want to then take 2 points that fall as close to the line or on the line as possible. So 2 points that I see are 60, 28, which is this point right here. And then you also want to take 10, 81, and you write those 2 coordinates. And then from there, you find the slope of them. So you're going to do 28 minus 81 over 60 minus 10. You get negative 53 over 50. Negative 53 over 50 is your slope. So that's pretty close to -1. I'm just going to let you write -1. That's okay. It's okay if you just write -1. So now if you write it, let's just say we write it in slope-intercept form. So now it's y equals -1x plus b. That's how that should look. You don't really have to write -1x, but I'm just doing that to make a point. Remember, it's just close too. A lot of this is kind of estimation because your line might look a little different than somebody else's line. Or you can pick a different point. If somebody picked this point, your slope is going to be different than the slope. So a lot of it is, as long as you're picking points that are close enough to the line, then I'm going to have to do the work of saying, okay, these are the points they picked. That's okay. And people are going to be getting different answers, but you're still doing it correctly, if that makes sense. So the next thing we can find is using this, line of best fit or the trend line. We're not going to put 79 because we want to go and we want to use the trend line. So the trend line looks like it's going through kind of about like 90 on the y-axis. So now it could be y equals -1x plus 90. Even though we have a point on the y-axis, we know that when the latitude is 0, the temperature is 79 degrees. We don't use that point because that point is actually quite far from the trend line. So we use where the trend line would go through because what this equation is doing is it's helping us find an estimate, whether it is, inside or extrapolated. I know I said extrapolation, but I know you could say extrapolation as well. So now you have your equation. Y equals about -1x. Remember, it's a lot of its estimates plus 90. Now what comes up here when you actually plugged it in is y equals -1.07x plus 92.9. So our answer of -1x plus 90 is pretty close. And that's fine. As long as you're having pretty accurate estimates for the scatter plot and the trend line, you're going to be fine. So now the next question says, estimate the average temperature for a city with a latitude of 48 degrees. So now we just plug in 48 for x. Y equals -1 times 48 plus 90. And ultimately, we end up getting y equals 42. So that lets you know when it is 48 on latitude, which is about here, we should be about 42 degrees, which is about here. And that falls like right near the trend line. So that's a fine answer.